Have you ever wondered what would happen if two of the darkest, most complex characters in the Marvel universe, Moon Knight and Doctor Doom, were drawn into the same storyline? What if their battles, their wounds, their inner demons weren't just parallel threads, but part of a metacosmic weave that binds them? What if one's madness is the reflection of the other's ambition? In this video, we're going to unravel a theory so bold it might just change the way you see both characters forever. A theory that bridges the nocturnal vigilante's fractured psyche with the ironclad monarch of Latveria. So buckle up, because by the end, you'll never look at Moon Knight or Doctor Doom the same way again. Ethan felt the night pressing in all around him. The city lights were distant stars that refused to be distant. As if the concrete and glass were competing to swallow the sky, he wandered the rooftop's edge, unaware that somewhere far away, another mind, masked, regal, imperious, was also scheming under the same moon. It was under that shared light that their destinies would collide. The story of Moon Knight begins in shadows. Marc Spector, a broken man salvaged from the brink by ancient Egyptian gods, now walks the line between hero and monster, his psyche fractured, his purpose uncertain. Yet those fractures are not just cracks, they are tunnels, doorways, thresholds. And Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, is no stranger to thresholds. His ambition to redefine reality, to conquer fear and death alike, stems from wounds deeper than any physical scar. Let's rewind. The first time we truly see Marc is not as Moon Knight, but as a man whose life collapsed. Betrayals, death's dread, ghosts of memory. His life is patchwork. He is stitched together with rage and miracles. But what Marc doesn't yet realize is that his psyche is a landscape, just as mutable as time or space. In the same multiverse, Victor Von Doom is building his own landscape of control, raw, iron-forged, an obstacle to fate itself. At the heart of our theory lies a single question. Are Moon Knight's shattered selves and Doom's labyrinthine ambition mirrors of one another? Because Doom, for all his outward confidence, carries his own inner fractures, a mother's death, a scarred face, a fear of chaos, and the compulsion to dominate. The very things Marc tries to outrun are the things Victor can never escape. In fact, their destinies might be entwined, not by chance, but by the metaphysical architecture of Marvel's cosmos. Someday, when the writers connect these dots, Moon Knight's madness will meet Dr. Doom's purpose, and the result won't be what fans expect. To understand how, we need to traverse three stages: the fall, the forging, and the confrontation. Tonight, in Act 1, we'll explore that fall, how they broke, how their internal wars began, how the moonlight and the iron overlapped before the battle even began. Marc's earliest wounds were invisible. He was a soldier, a mercenary, hardened by war, haunted by death. But war leaves marks that time cannot heal. Every mission he returned from carried ghosts. He trusted few, leaned on Nelson and Ramsey when he could, and built walls of control. Then came Khonshu, a voice in his head, a mandate, an alliance with divine cruelty. Under Khonshu's blessing, Marc gained the Moon Knight mantle, but at a cost. He began listening for whispers, ceding territory in his mind. The mask became not just armor, but boundary. His identities, Marc, Stephen, Jake, rose to defend him from himself. In one moment, when the city is under siege, Stephen emerges. He knows better how to handle people, to soothe, to negotiate, to act a gentler role. Jake, the childlike, impulsive one, breaks through when instinct claws at survival. And then Marc pulls the strings when violence demands a hand. Their coexistence is tenuous. Sometimes they argue, sometimes they sob, sometimes they erase each other's memories. Now flash to Doom's origin. Victor was a prodigy in Latveria, the son of a healer and a scholar. His intellect soared, but life didn't honor him. His mother died in arcane experiments. He blamed science, fate, mysticism. His face scarred in an accident, and his arrogance bloomed from that shame. To Victor, chaos is weakness, and control is the only god worth worshipping. But control is never monolithic. Victor divides his life into facets: the ruler, the scientist, the mystic, the conqueror. In private, Doom might doubt. In solitude, he might tremble. But he builds masks of certainty, armor of steel, doctrine upon doctrine. His body is one fortress, his mind multiple. Here's where the mirror swells. Moon Knight and Dr. Doom have multiple selves, but one central fear: the collapse of identity. Marc fears losing control to darkness. Victor fears losing dominion to entropy. One hears voices in his head, ancient gods, The other hears whispers of dimensions, cosmic entities, the boundaries he must dominate. Both must tread the edge between order and chaos, between self and other. The boundary is razor thin. The fall begins with betrayal. In Marc's case, betrayal by those closest, clients, friends, even his own mind. Memories he trusted vanish. He awakens in weird places. He confronts monolithic cults that tie into Egyptology and cosmic horror. At times he glimpses realities where he is loved, and the pain of loss redoubles. He's torn between sheer survival and moral duty. He wants justice, but often the night demands violence. Over time, those demands eat at him. Victor's fall is more deliberate, more ambitious. He betrays mentors, barons of science, institutions, even mystical orders. He steals secrets. He forges weapons. At each step, he sacrifices part of his self. Empathy, humility, compromise. To create his utopia, he must purge the messy world of dissent. Yet the more absolute his dominion, the more isolated he becomes. Power is a mirror of loneliness. Doom becomes his own enemy. Now imagine a cosmic ripple that connects their falls. Picture that Khonshu, in his inscrutable divine logic, detects a tear in reality, something only visible to those of madness or grandeur. A wound in space-time that pulses with possibility. Khonshu whispers, "There is another mind somewhere shifting the pattern." Meanwhile, Victor's experiments with magic, with time, with interdimensional mechanics, trigger tremors. He senses a resonance, a mind that bends reality from within. Doom becomes curious. Who manipulates worlds from inside their psyche? The question haunts him. One rainy night, Marc stands on a rooftop, hearing voices of moonlight. The city murmurs. He knows something is wrong, something unseen. He drifts into a dream realm where symbols and sigils bend. In that dream, Marc's fractured selves wander corridors of mirrors. At the end of the corridor is Dr. Doom's iron mask. Marc recoils. But the mask turns, revealing a face behind it, empty, echoing a scream. Marc wakes, heart pounding. He doesn't know why he saw Doom, but the image embeds itself in his nightmares. At the same time, Victor is in his sanctum. He pores over tomes and mechanical schematics. He traces disturbances in mystical ley lines. His machines detect fluctuations in probability. He projects a mental map of the cosmos. There, he sees a node of instability. It matches nothing he's seen in any dimension, but something feels familiar. He conjures astral visions. He glimpses darkness, a figure in moonlight, shifting, mutating. That figure laughs. Doom's teeth grind. He commands his magic to pierce the vision. He reaches with intellect and sorcery, but the figure slips away like water. He wakes up with trembling fingers. He senses he has made a connection, and that connection may be dangerous. Thus far, the fall converges. They remain distant, separate, yet drawn to the same veil that divides reality. The fractures grow. The voices grow louder. And the stage is set. You might ask, why would Doom even care about Moon Knight? A street-level vigilante? Because this isn't street-level anymore. The rupture between their worlds transcends scale. The same metaphysical currents that haunt Marc tear at Doom. Doom's ambition worries because stability is not merely political, it is ontological. Doom wants an ordered cosmos. Marc fights to stay sane in a chaotic cosmos. When those cosmos bleed into one another, conflict becomes inevitable. Now picture our first major crossover point, a ritual in Latveria. Doom commands the moon's aspect. He seeks to harness lunar energy, not for light, but for dominion over shadows, to bind spirits and open gates. He creates a conduit, tapping into ancient Egyptian magic and extra-dimensional ley lines. The conduit hums, the night trembles. And on the other side, in New York, Marc's minds trigger. Steven snaps, "Why does the moon feel warlike?" Jake trembles, "I don't like this." Marc feels Khonshu whisper, "They reach into our domain." A surge of power fractures his control. He collapses to the street. That is when Act 1 closes, when the two begin to sense one another not just as ideas, but as looming adversaries. Marc recovers in a labyrinth of memories. Doom looks at the anomalies in his machine, maps, circuits, moon sigils, and realizes something beyond his control has taken root. In our next act, we'll follow their collision course, the forging of alliances, missteps, betrayals, escalations. We'll see how Moon Knight and Dr. Doom push toward confrontation, how they mirror each other's decisions, and how the cosmic stakes are no longer merely personal but universal. Marc didn't remember falling. One second he was on the rooftop, gripping the edge of a distant vision. The next he was submerged in black. Not darkness, something thicker, heavier. Like the night itself had been poured into his veins. He woke in a warehouse half covered in blood. A full moon spilled light across the floorboards like an accusation. Jake had taken over again. Stephen panicked, pacing the room in his mind, whispering frantically to himself. Marc didn't answer. Because he was listening, there was something new now. A hum under the skin, like a frequency only his fractured mind could pick up. A signal that wasn't from Khonshu. This wasn't divine madness, it was engineered. Somewhere across the world, deep within a hidden chamber beneath Castle Doom, Victor stood still, expression unreadable, gazing at a slowly rotating holographic projection of the moon. His machine had worked. He had summoned a fragment of power from an ancient tether point somewhere between the lunar sphere and the astral plane, but there was interference. His data was corrupted by a second consciousness. The ritual had opened a tunnel, but not only for him. A mind, splintered, chaotic, ancient, and modern all at once, had looked back. Doom was no fool. He knew when the cosmos responded with agency. "What are you?" he whispered to the air. Khonshu, watching from the other void, smiled. In New York, Marc visited Gina's diner. He didn't order anything. He just sat in the corner booth, hood pulled low. He felt watched. Not by people. By something bigger, colder, mathematical. He'd been here before. Not the diner, the feeling. He'd felt it in South Sudan before a massacre. He'd felt it in that museum he once infiltrated in Prague, when he touched that obsidian scarab covered in hieroglyphs that hummed. That same hum was in him now, like something had tagged him. Stephen, the scholar, pulled up memories. Dr. Doom, Latveria, a genius rivaling Reed Richards, a tyrant king, a sorcerer. The whispers of Doom, literally. But why would Doom be tapping into lunar currents? Then Khonshu answered, with a vision. Marc's body convulsed as his eyes turned white. He was pulled into a corridor of moons. Mirrors along the walls reflected not just faces, but entire timelines. In one he was still a mercenary. In the heart of Latveria, Castle Doom stood like a monument to obsession. Inside, Victor waited, not in armor but in robes, regal yet understated. The walls glowed with arcane glyphs, not mechanical, mystic. He wasn't preparing for war. He was performing surgery. When Marc entered, they didn't fight. Not at first. They talked. "You've used gods as weapons," Victor said. "I find that crude. But effective." Marc didn't flinch. "You're the one playing puppet master with cosmic forces." Victor raised a brow. "I do not play. I architect." The conversation became a chess match. Doom revealed what he'd uncovered. That Moon Knight's mind operated on a frequency that allowed it to perceive and affect localized, multiversal shifts like a walking tuning fork. That his personas might not just be psychological trauma, but echoes of realities colliding, and Doom believed he could use this to predict and control multiverse incursions. Marc laughed bitterly. "You want to build fences around madness?" Doom nodded. "Madness is only a failure of language. With the right equation, it becomes logic." Marc stood. "You want to build a multiverse where everything behaves, and I'm your chaos variable." Doom, no, you are the blueprint. Ugh. The conversation ended when Doom tried to inject Marc with a stabilizer. Serum, disguised as a sedative, meant to quiet the noise. Marc shattered the vial. Jake emerged, brutal and violent, slashing through Doom's guards with savage precision. But Doom was no fool. This was expected. With a single spell, he sealed the chamber. "Show me who you really are," he whispered. Khonshu responded, descending in spectral form. The chamber bent as if caught in a windless quake. Doom raised his hand, his magic clashing with godly force. They collided not with fists, but with symbols, sigils burning into space, time folding. Marc, caught in the middle, began to split. Not figuratively, literally. One by one, personas peeled off him like fragments stepping into the room. Stephen appeared first, then Jake, then another, a version in black robes, then one in gold armor with glowing eyes, then a child, then a woman. Doom's spell had pulled them into semi-corporeal form, echoes of Moon Knights. Across realities, a hall of mirrors come to life. Victor stood stunned. You are the Veil," he whispered. Marc collapsed to his knees, blood from the nose. "Make it stop." Khonshu screamed in a tongue lost to mortals. Doom's spell trembled. Then everything imploded into light. Marc awoke in the ruins of Doom's chamber. The glyphs were flickering. Time stuttered. He saw his hand reach for his face twice. Jake and Steven were back inside, dazed. Doom was still standing, burned, furious, and afraid. "You broke my machine," Doom spat. "No," Marc said. "You built a door but forgot what might crawl through." Because in the light something else had entered. A voice neither of them recognized whispered in the room. "You are both wrong." In another he was dead. In yet another he wore gold armor, standing in a kingdom of sand and stars. Then came the mask. Victor's face, molten in silver, appeared in the mirror. He wasn't angry. He was calm, controlled, but behind his mask, curiosity burned like wildfire. Doom had seen too much. He had reached into too many realities. And in one of them he saw Khonshu not as God but as energy, a programmable force, a tool.
"Khonshu is no god." Doom's voice echoed through the mirror realm.
"He is data, energy, influence, he is moldable," Marc screamed. Back in Latveria, Doom observed something terrifying. His machines, those brilliant tools of control, were glitching. His readings were no longer stable. Time slipped unpredictably around Moon Knight's psychic residue. Doom's experiments showed that Marc wasn't just unstable, he was a nexus of psychic multiversal instability, a human node of divergence, not a variant, a root. Doom realized something Reed Richards had missed. Marc Spector wasn't interesting because of his mental illness. He was important because his fractures allowed him to interface with multiversal strata naturally. Every persona, Marc, Steven, Jake, and others not yet known, might be echoes from other universes. He wasn't split. He was converged. Victor understood in that moment. The moon was not his target. It was merely a lens. His real prize was the mind of Moon Knight. But what Doom didn't anticipate was resistance. Marc was done running. "I want answers," he growled, standing atop a Manhattan rooftop as the moon hung low, red from smog. "No more visions. No more missions. Khonshu, I want to know why he's looking at me." Khonshu, ever cryptic, finally spoke with clarity. "Because Doom sees what you refuse to. You are a wound in the veil, Moon Knight. You are not just my avatar. You are the veil's rupture, and Doom wants to stitch it shut. Around you," Marc dropped to one knee, overwhelmed. "The veil, the multiverse?" He wasn't a prophet, he was a leak. Then came the message. A drone descended from the clouds. Latverian tech disguised as Stark-level sophistication. It delivered a single object, a scroll made of thin, flexible titanium. An invitation. Marc opened it. "Marc Spector. We are connected. Come to Latveria, or I will come to you." Signed, Victor Von Doom. Jake wanted to fight. Steven wanted to run. Marc just wanted to understand. 3 days later, under a false name and multiple illusions, he boarded a ship under the guise of a diplomatic passenger. Destination, Latveria. But this wasn't a rescue mission. It was reconnaissance. He needed to see if the man behind the mask was truly playing God, or if he was, like Marc, just another man dancing on the edge of madness. What Marc didn't know, however, was that Doom had already predicted every step. The invitation wasn't bait. It was a challenge, a test. Doom wanted to see him, study him, map the broken terrain of a mind too dangerous to be left unchecked. A shadow moved across the wall. Not Doom, not Khonshu. Something else had been watching. A third force. Doom's eyes widened. "You brought it here." Marc, barely able to stand, whispered. "No, you pulled it here." Neither knew its name. Not yet, but viewers might.